There's a great underestimation going on, which I want to speak about. And I want to give an example first so you can really follow my thinking. There was a guy, William Cameron Townsend. He was a great pioneer. He lived to be an old man, 1982, but although I never met him personally, I was able to speak for the Summer Institute of Linguistics at the time that I got my doctorate, and this was a great honor for me. But I really didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know who I was dealing with. I didn't know the shoulders that I was standing on. This was no one less than the one that had actually founded the Wycliffe Bible Translators, and also the Summer Institute of Linguistics, and the corollary group that called JARS helped us when we did the Yeshua film in Yiddish. They were right here in New York, down in Greenwich Village, helping us. So many spinoffs came from this guy, and here I was. I didn't even know who he was. I was kind of an ignorant young person, like many of these people in the universities who are speaking hatred and demonstrating and showing their ignorance about God's people. But I want to talk about William Cameron Townsend in a tangential way here, because I want you to know that when God brought Luke to work with Rav Shaul, he was adding a great historian to the team, so that while Paul was preaching, I should say, Luke was interviewing eyewitnesses. And you have to understand that this man, Luke, although historians like Ferdinand Bauer, Baur, a German theologian, at first underestimated his historical skills and the value of his writing as history. He changed his mind. So did Sir William Ramsay, a Scottish archaeologist and historian. You should read his book, St. Paul, the Traveler and the Roman Citizen, where he applauds Luke's historical accuracy. And these people that are trying to be detractors, who are paid scoffers, who will come along and look at Luke's writing and try to say, well, Quirinius did not have a governorship, and therefore everything that he says about the first census in Luke chapter 2, verse 2 is ahistorical. Well, they don't really know what they're talking about, because the original word there doesn't have to mean governor. It's the semantic range of the term can refer in this context to the general time in which he was ruling in some role or another in Syria, and that there was another census later. And so there were actually two censuses administered by Quirinius. And people who don't bother to get advanced degrees and really do their homework can scoff about people like Luke. But they obviously don't know what they're talking about. Harnack, McGiffert, uh, Frank J. Folks Jackson, Hardy, and also Colin Roberts. These are all historians who applaud Luke's historical accuracy. And they conducted extensive research on Luke's gospel and his history of the early Derek, the sect of Judaism called Haderech. And they see what a wonderful, top-notch person that God brought alongside Paul. And you have to see that he did this also with me. Because when I spoke at the Summer Institute of Linguistics as a young guy in his 30s, early 30s, I had no idea what God was getting ready to do. I'm talking about Hashem, Rebbe, Melech, HaMoshiach, and the Jewish scriptures. The Lord knew that a certain man named John Macaulay, who was going to work with Wycliffe Bible translators and spend his whole career doing 70, not one, not two, not five, but 70 Bible translations in the African languages, that this man in Tanzania would be brought by the Lord to Oxford, England, and then he would team up with me to do the Yiddish Tanakh and Brit Hadashah. This was God's doing. This was what God did. You have to understand, God is in control. Those of us who are believers, we're just little pawns on the chessboard. If anyone thinks he's something when he's nothing, he deceives himself. I am not trying to pat myself on the back here and say, look at the great people that I'm associated with. No, what I'm trying to tell you is that when Mordecai Samuel Bergman did his classic Yiddish Tanakh, which was done in the 20th century, but at the early part of the 20th century, when Aaron Krolenbaum did his classic Yiddish Brit Hadashah when I was 3 years old, these two ultra-Orthodox Jews who had yeshiva background and great learning and knew Yiddish as their mother tongue, these two guys, when it came time to update the Yiddish spelling, orthography, etc., when it came time to do the editing, when it came time to put these on YouVersion, the Lord knew that he was going to bring John Macaulay in to work with me. And God did that. I'm giving God the glory. I'm giving a testimony for the Lord here. If anyone thinks he's something when he's nothing, he deceives himself. You have to see that the Lord made sure Rav Shaul had Luke with him. Yes, Luke, the historian, the quality of his Greek is actually better than the other synoptic gospels. This man wrote at the time that Rav Shaul was doing his most important work. He was an eyewitness. He saw everything. He interviewed the key players, people like Philippos, the Muvasser, who was one of the original leaders. We're talking about at the time of the Ulam Shlomo of the Beis HaMikdash, when Kippur stood up with the 11 and preached on Shavuos. We're talking about the author of the Basuras HaGeolah and also the history in the Bible of Haderech. this historian, who was an eyewitness, he includes the historical and the geographical details, the specific rulers and events that anchor the whole narrative in a historical context. He actually speaks to the eyewitnesses. It is extremely likely and definitely possible that he interviewed Miriam Bat David herself. You know, you have to see that gathering accurate information required someone of his stature, and scholars praise his work as for its historical reliability and consider him to be a careful and credible historian. And to get this in the finest Yiddish, excuse me. Listen, let me tell you something. We don't wrestle against flesh and blood. We wrestle against principalities and powers. And there is a force of darkness, a personal force that doesn't really want me to be able to squeak this out, but you need to hear this, what I'm saying. You need to hear it. You need to read the entire Jewish scriptures and not listen to the Bubba Mitzvah and the ones that are controlling you and telling you that it is halakhically forbidden for you to read this book, the book of all books. Let me say this very succinctly. When you look at the cast of characters of the Brit Hadashah, Yeshua of Nazareth, Pilate, Paul of Tarsus, Kepha the fisherman, and all these people, let me tell you something. Even though these people are mentioned, they would not be mentioned if Moshiach ben David had not risen from the dead. In other words, there is no reason the world needs to know about a fisherman from the Galilee named Kepha. There were thousands of those, and they're all forgotten, and nobody cares about them, and nobody wants to know anything about them. And all these people, these obscure people, none of them would be important. It's just like when JFK was assassinated in Dallas. All kinds of people have been interviewed. A guy was walking on the street. He looked up. He saw the rifle coming out of the window. Another guy was crossing the street, getting into a car. He heard some shots. None of these people, these obscure people that we know about, who give us these eyewitness accounts, would be remembered. They would all be forgotten. The only reason we do remember them is that the president of the United States was assassinated, and this monumental historical thing occurred, and they were there. The monumental historical thing that occurred was the hope of Judaism was fulfilled. The Moshiach ben David stood up alive in the cemetery. And these are the eyewitnesses who were there, who saw it. Otherwise, we wouldn't even know these people. They're not important. They wouldn't be important. How many Galilean fishermen have you read about? So why am I bringing this up? Why am I trying to tell you this? I'm trying to explain to you that the hand of God was on the founder of Wycliffe Bible Translators. And when John Macaulay, as a very young man, began translating the Bible in Africa, this man was still alive. And when I came to Wheaton to speak, because not because of me, it was because of Ralph Winter, who had set up the speaking engagement. And here I am speaking to these SIL people, these Summer Institute of Linguistics people, these people, that I've been talking about. And why was I there? And why was John Macaulay, as a young man, already getting ready to go to Africa and translate these 70 Bibles into African languages and do all that work in Tanzania? Why? Because God knew that in 2021, I would get a phone call from the American Bible Society, and that Artists for Israel International would join the United Bible Society, and that this team of the top software engineers, Bible consultant, translation consultant, and all these people would be in all these continents, all these countries, that they would all be helping me with Zoom and all this technology to make a great Yiddish Tanakh. And when you go to yiddishbible.net, you see it there. You see their work. And this goes far beyond anything I could have ever imagined. The Brit Hadashah is far greater than anything you could ever think about. The God of Israel was not going to let this monumental thing happen and not be properly dealt with. And now that the ultra-Orthodox and the Hasidim are going to get the good news, and they are going to get the Mavaser work, and they're going to get the Yiddish scriptures, the Lord is not about to let it be done by amateurs and people that are unable to do it. He is whistling and bringing in his best people from all over the world. And that is the great God that we deal with. And now I'm not going to talk about John Macaulay, and I'm not going to talk about the founder of Wycliffe Bible Translators, and I'm not going to talk about SIL, and I'm not going to talk about me. What I'm going to talk about is the great God. If anyone thinks he's something when he is nothing, he deceives himself. We are nothing, but God is doing a great work right here in New York. He is doing a great work right now. And you need to see it. You need to wake up and smell the coffee, if I can use that expression. That's a good New York expression. Wake up and smell the coffee and read the book. See the monumental work that Luke did. See the work that he chronicles about the work of this rabbi who hated the Shagitzes of the world and would never evangelize them. Are you kidding? Until he met the fulfillment of Judaism, who told him, Rav Shaul, why are you persecuting me? Go to YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and watch The Rabbi from Tarsus, which I made as a movie way back in 1986, and see what I'm talking about here, and see why you need to take another look at the Jewish scriptures of Hashem and Rebbe, Melech, HaMoshiach. HaMoshiach, I pray right now that you would reveal yourself as you did to the rabbi on the Damascus Road, to many rabbis, that they would come from the north, the south, the east, and the west and read the Yiddish Bible and turn over their lives to you and become the 144,000 that will turn the world upside down. Moshiach ben David, come into my heart, forgive my sins, take control of my life, and I will serve you and follow you all the days of my life. I will take my mikvah, I will take Moshiach's mikvah and Moshiach's tish, and I will walk in the derech of that sect of Judaism that has turned the whole world upside down, and will give you the praise. And everybody